And then who wants to go first? I don't, Michaela, I can kind of see you, but it's kind of dark where you are, so I can't see you. And it doesn't matter. We just want to hear what you're here for. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, let Michaela go first. How have you been, Michaela? I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you. Yeah, Robyn, you look so shiny. It's wonderful. I just popped in and I've heard that you were in the wilderness. That's wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, I've been hiking the high mountains and getting into the high mountains and the high lakes. They've been keeping me up in what the Andeans, the shamans that I study with, we call the apus. So I've been hiking all the high mountains, the high lakes, and getting into where what they say the peoples don't touch. So I can touch the untouched earth and waters and feel what the higher vibrations are speaking, what Mother Earth wants to say. Yeah.
Yes, I love the high lakes because the water she has so much information, the untouched, genuine information in it. Yeah, it must have been wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. It's a trek to get there in some places, but it's beautiful, and being able to drink the waters, take it within, just like taking in the crystalline light, the crystalline waters, being able to take in the waters of the earth. It's just magnificent, and the views are just absolutely stunning. And like Lowell says, you can barely see you, but it doesn't matter, but we can feel you. So we feel you.
I can try to. The sun is setting.
The sun
here,
is shining. The sun is shining on you, so it's illuminating you so much that your view is different.
Yeah, you're kind of backlit.
That's okay. We see you and we feel you.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, that's fine. It is sunset here, in the other side of the planet. Yes.
Well, I don't have sun because it's raining here, so I love your sun.
Yeah. It's only one sun. That's wonderful. Oh, and that's my number one topic now that I wanted to discuss, if you don't have anything else.
Get it.
Go for it.
Yeah, okay. So I have discovered that Ben's channel that you were sharing a couple of times, Lowell, the suspicious observers and things about shifts and magnetic field and solar flares and everything. And it's rather fascinating. I'm going to learn about it more because I feel like those are basic things that we should know about, especially
I'm glad you said that. And I won't interrupt after this, but when you say it was one of the basic things you need to understand,
yes,
that phenomenon and our part of that cosmic phenomenon and our part of being within the solar system and it being within, a larger system, that was the first thing you had to understand. And when there is where I could connect science with metaphysics, because plenty of the scientists acknowledged these cycles that the Earth and the solar system is going through. So especially the progression of the equinoxes. When you understand that phenomenon and what influence it has on everything else, and that everything within it is evolving, wow, here, that in physics is where I kind of got grounded in the things I needed to understand. So I will be quiet now after that. But I stopped to say that because I'm thrilled when somebody else gets what I've got for a while now.
Yes, exactly. I think in general, we do not understand the basic things, not only about this. Many people don't even know what are equinoxes and solstices. But also about elements and the basic components of this reality. So I feel like getting some time to deeper study now. Yeah, that I have finished with my work somehow. As I was with you in Shasta, many things have shifted. And when I returned home, I understood that I have to change everything. And I need to focus on the things that are really important now because I can. So one of the things that I'm planning to do is to study more about the basic things, about electricity, magnetism, elements, universe, human body, everything that is basic and that is somewhat forgotten. Yeah. So I got into this topic of solar flares and everything, and it is rather interesting. I think I'm starting to get more about what you were talking about in previous months, and you were just gently mentioning it, not to go too far to polarize people or something. But I would love to discuss it more. Yeah.
Well, today is the day. Today is the day. That's all you can do. And part of what I'm careful and mindful to put out. And Dave and I talked about after we met in Shasta, last season, and we had agreed that there's lots of things that people need to understand. You were going to have to give it to them in bite-sized pieces, because I had to get it in bite-sized pieces. In order to understand the bigger picture, you got to understand all the smaller elements to begin with. And once you get that, then, one truth kind of just compounds onto another until you finally get that we're electromagnetic beings in a cosmic cycle. And, we look beyond, the things that school and all the other influences have conditioned us with, and that there's way more than that. So it thrills me that somebody gets it, even though you had to kind of read my cryptic messages when I would try and talk about the things that I knew. There's only so far you can go before you start to use language that no one else is going to get. So you can start to begin to explain something, and after 10 minutes, what you've talked about is so familiar to you, but so foreign to everybody else, you've just tuned them out. Well, my concern there is we've lost our opportunity to enlighten somebody or trigger them. And so it's a dance. Part of me some days wants everybody on the planet to understand all the things I understand, especially when it comes to things like golden tie allotments and these preconditioned higher frequency areas that are already here in preparation for what's to move. Now, that's a big sentence to say, and a lot of comprehension that you've got to be able to have to, see that and put it into words. But the moment that I start to use words that are unfamiliar to everybody else, I just tune them out. The other half of me thinks I'm happy with just shutting up and sharing this with the tribe. It was never my intention to be able to worry about affecting millions of people with what I know is truth and what they all need to know. We're at a stage where we're in the middle of this, and it's just going to be, in my mind, moments before whatever trigger finally kicks us into the next level. But I can't shut up. This wasn't what I signed up for, and this is what I agreed to do. I agreed to understand this so that I could put it in terms that others could understand. That's why I go to such lengths trying to explain, trying to put it in terms that everybody else can get within, the wherewithal that they already have. And that's a hard thing to do, because we're trying to talk about concepts that are, higher vibrational things that other people they're not used to. It doesn't mean that they can't get it, but I know the process it took for me, and I was on an accelerated path. And this has been 4 years for me now to look back at what's happened. And can't speak for anybody else, but I had to get to this place before I could understand the things that led up to it. So
you're meant to speak your truth, no matter how it comes out and what form that it comes out. And those that are meant to hear it, when whatever form of ears they hear it with, will hear it in their form and their time and their space. And it's not for you to worry about where they come to you and how they come to you. Your purpose in your space is to speak and share and shine your truth, no matter where you are, what you're doing, is always to bring forth your light, your being, your shine, your radiance, your magnificence, and just do that and not worry about what you're perpetuating of sound and song and vibration, not to bring down your vibration of worry of what somebody hears of right form, just to bring forth your vibrations of the greatest magnitude of forth that you can in the highest of your being. And that will perpetuate your song and your sound further and further to the cosmos, that it can magnify forth even further, and those are to hear will come forth to you. It's not of your being to worry of whose ears are to hear.
You're absolutely right about that. Absolutely right. That's why I continue to do what I do. Whether I touch 3 people or 3,000 people, it was meant for the people that heard on the other end. And I realized that I'm the trigger for lots of people when they come along. Our paths were meant to cross so that I would trigger something in their awareness that they already had. And now they're just curious and they need to, follow that rabbit hole. I understand that part. But there's,
Yes,
there's such a distinction between my 3-dimensional self and how my reflexes are to respond to situations. And then there's my higher aspect that sees things from up here and understands the scenario and doesn't get excited about it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to get back to Michaela because we kind of cut her off, and I want to hear her complete her thought, because I could tell before she left that things were shifting when we spent time in Shasta. Our last trip to McCloud Falls triggered something for sure. So I'm just going to sit back and let her share her experience so that others can hear what it was like for somebody to come totally unfamiliar with Shasta and what their experiences were there.
Oh, you want me to share my experience from Shasta?
I want to share whatever you feel compelled to share, but I think everybody should hear everybody else's experience in Shasta. You can't really articulate whatever magic is there, and it's undeniable. Every time I go there, there's something magic that happens, and you can't deny that anymore, which just compels you to want to go back.
Yeah, I'm thinking what would be the most useful to share, because there was a lot of experience. Even with Robyn also, we had some very, I would say, multi-layered experiences, from higher dimensions to really survival mode in a in a very lowest level. But I don't know really. I don't know where to start. I came entirely by my intuition, and then I just knew that it was meant to happen. And when I was arriving in Shasta and I was in the bus and I just saw the mountain first time from the bus, I immediately started crying. And I know that when my body reacts as strongly as like this, it definitely is something big. And then I realized that I should stay there for the rest of my trip. And yeah, and then many experiences happened, but I'm not really sure what would be the most useful to share, because I could talk for hours, But yes, I was in wilderness with Robyn. That was just magnificent. That's my kind of doing things. I'm not usually visiting very touristic places. I rather go from the other side of the mountain or from some other path that is not on the main track. So that's where we had our first adventures. But we were kind of stopped by the wilderness itself. Yeah, because the bears appeared. Yeah, but we managed to survive. It it was all as it meant to be, and I was just thinking that you might be drawn to some places, you might be on that high level of consciousness, but still you have to encounter the rough reality of the forest, and it's all in synergy for sure, but it's such a multi-dimensional experience, it just flips you from one layer to another. Wonderful experience. Yes. And then we were hiking with you, Lowell, and you are right, at McLeod Falls, it was I think it was the most important part of our hike, because
I've
something
been
happened.
there a few times at the door to Telos, but I had not seen what you saw carved into the rock there. And once you pointed it out, oh my God, it was almost like it was lifted off so that you could see it and it was unmistakable. And then when you drew your illustration of what that was, oh yeah, nobody came by here and did that recently. That was scratched into the rock, and the illustration that it was demonstrating was
Yes.
more significant than somebody that was a tagger that came and decided that they were going to put their initials up on a rock somewhere. That wasn't what that was.
Yes, this one was in the forest when we were with Robyn, in the other side of the mountain, in the wilderness where nobody goes, but still in one of the big rocks that were in the forest, I just got the idea that there is some message on the rock. So I just examined it and found it. And there was really like if someone drew a picture with a stone or something. And it was very precise. It was very clear. Yeah. So, yeah, but unfortunately we weren't able to go further because
this time
things happened. Yeah. But with you, when we were at the portal at McLeod Falls, there was different thing. I've seen like light patterns right on the portal. Like those stars that were like more dimensional. They were like 6-pointed star and 8-pointed star, 10-pointed star, many kind of stars, but they were like 2D image, but they were in space. You know what I mean? Know how to call it. So, but the most important thing I think was that at one point when we were standing by the portal and we were taking photos. I don't know if you remember, but I think that was the main point of the program, because I kind of lost consciousness for a few seconds, and then I had to ground myself when we were going further. I had to lie on the ground, you remember, and I think that was where some important download happened, and the rest of it was just an integration of it.
Yeah, there was something crazy. And it took me a few days after that. You had taken some pictures with your phone. You'd set them down, and then we were standing by the door, and it took pictures while we were there. One of them you could clearly see, and there was no way for the sunlight to have been this phenomenon, but there was a light that came down and was on your hand in that hole that you had found in the wall. I know when you showed it to me at the time, I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought I had taken that. And the protective cover over my phone had cracked. And so if I took a picture with it, it would catch the sun in a different way and, leave some light phenomenon. And that's what I thought it was. It wasn't until later I went, wait a minute, I didn't take that picture with my camera. She took it. So there was something significant that happened that day there, and there was light that was there in two different pictures that was there.
Yes, sure. I can share the picture in the group. Maybe people will enjoy it. Yeah, that's nice, because we were trying to play with the portal. We were, I found some holes on it, and sometimes happens that when you put your finger or crystal or something somewhere, something might happen. So
Activates it.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know, that's kind of it. Then I get back home and everything changed. Everything just kind of settled down, and I stopped my work. Even though everything was going well, I just felt like I have to stop and to make some space for the explorations that I'm about to start. I need much more space for myself now. And I think many of us do, because that's what I wanted to discuss with you about the solar activity. That, yeah, people often talk about the risks of it, but there are also opportunities. I was listening to one of the videos of Sadhguru lately, and he was sharing that when the activity is high, everything, like in the energetical sense, in the sense of inner alchemy, is kind of cooking faster. So we can really, I wouldn't say use this season to really work on our energetics and our inner growth, because we can be synchronized with those high peaks of energy and make them work for us. You know, not being not feeling bad or not being at risk or something, but take it from the other side, that it's really an opportunity to enhance and accelerate our spiritual practice. Yeah, whether it is yoga, tai chi, I don't know, aromatic alchemy, whatever. There is a great opportunity, and I feel it. I didn't know it at the time when I finished, when I stopped my work, and I felt like I need some more space for myself. But now I know why did I do that, because I got to focus on this. Yes.
I always
The
see
learning,
those
the work.
opportunities as you're just cleared that. When you suggested you were done with your little model dolls for a while, to me, the third dimensional side of me went, "Oh, really? Those are so cute." But I see that you're moving on. You didn't lose that capability. Here's one way that you were expressing what you knew before. Somehow there's something else. So when you say that was kind of removed, it made space for what's coming next, because since we've been here this morning, you're talking about other things that have kind of filled that space and now have your curiosity going in different directions, and it's all meaningful. It's all meant to do something. So it sounds like you're going through many of the steps of the process that I did. The second thing that I came in concert with was that whole cosmic phenomenon and where we are in all of that. Once I got a handle of that, and scientists had agreed that these cosmic cycles were really a thing, okay, well, here's where science and metaphysics cross. Here's where there's some actual sense to that. So this 3D part of me has something you can hang on to and believe, because I, at the time, wasn't ready to look beyond it and just know that that was what it was. I had to get to that part first. I had to do my due diligence and understand from an evidentiary standpoint whether that was true or not. And when it was, well, all you're doing is just building on the next truth and the next truth. But holy cow, I got a really solid foundation now of where I've been. And that's why, as you move along and you want to share this experience with others, there's only a handful of people that have been through all the things you've been through. So there's only so many people that can relate. And that's where tribe's important. And for me, I don't need thousands of people to do that. That little private group we put together, it's not quite 400 people, but they're all vibrating at the same vibration. And that was what was important to me, is we're going to go through this and share these things. Everybody, it's not that we weren't questioning things, because we need to understand them for ourselves, but it was a little more palatable when somebody else in the tribe was going through something new. And it wasn't going to be like anybody else, because these things were meant to be shared with the group, but there was no expectation that everybody was going to go through the same thing. Hardly. We're all on our own journeys, learning our own lessons. And we all benefit from that, whether I'm riding side saddle with you right now or not. Sometimes our paths parallel for a while, and sometimes they just intersected and off we went. But they were all meaningful and they were meant to be. So I just love hearing Michaela talk about things I've been through. Here's where it didn't have to be exactly the same. It's just another tribe member is experiencing the same things at higher frequencies as I am. So it just lends more credence to all this phenomenon going on. And when you talk about how it's accelerating, days go by in a flip. What is the day? It's almost September. Wasn't that long ago, I was still wondering about when I was going to be in Shasta in July this year. And that was, back a while ago. Well, we're past that.
Yes, it's true, and I really feel like it's really essential to create the space, not to be distracted by things that are not necessary, and to really create the space. And then the new energy, the upgrades can happen. They are happening anyway, but when we create space, it is more smooth, more like gentle process. Yes. So that's how I felt when I came back, that I really have to create space for this, because this is big, what is happening. Yes. And we can enjoy it. We can really have that experience to the fullest. That's what I wish.
It's coming.
I like that.
However it ends up,
I like that you say that, Michaela, that you enjoy the process, because it is going to happen anyways when we're going through those processes. And so many don't enjoy that process, and they buck up against it, and they get this, they have the disease, and they have that, discomfort in their life, and in so many different ways. And they wonder, what is going on in my life, and what is all this turbulence and destruction in my life? It is the process of change and expansion in your life, and these things that are moving away from you and into you. And because you're not embracing that, you're not enjoying it. But when we enjoy it, like you said, it's a beautiful thing. We're meant to expand and allow things that are not serving us any longer to fall away, not just because they are bad. Nothing's bad. They're just not serving us any longer, and we're going to grow. And something like it, or something completely different, is going to pop into our life, or blossom into our life, and be more radiant. And if we're not willing to let it go, then how can it blossom? If we're going to cling on to that other flower, how can this new flower blossom if we're not willing to let that other flower go?
Yes, even if we are stepping into something really unknown.
Yeah.
And on the soul level, we might have a clue where we are going to, but sometimes it is, it's not easy to admit, but yeah.
But that's the exciting part. Like our journey up that mountain, where the river had washed out the road. We were like, I don't know where this is going to lead us. We have no idea where we're going to go, but let's just follow the river. Let's just go that way. We feel like we're going to go that way because we know the lake or the falls are that way. So we're just going to go that way and explore what comes to us. And we found some magnificent things. We did some beautiful energy work along the way, and we saw bears. I mean, who gets to see bears? I've seen bears a couple of times, but who gets to see bears in the wild like that and watch them walk by and, like hustle through the woods and get back to the truck?
Yes, it was perfect.
But, to walk out into the unknown of all things in our lives, I think is exciting.
Yes.
That's not the norm. That's not the norm. People are
apparently
still...
for Michaela and I, it is.
Well, you're not fear-based.
It's kind of feminine principle.
You're curious. you're curious about the things that you haven't experienced yet. You can't really say that that's the norm for everybody because they're just afraid of what they don't know. All I can tell you is that I had to get past that a long time ago and develop this mindset that the experiences that were laid out in front of me, instead of saying to myself, that's impossible, it can never happen. When I started to say, well, what if that was true? And then when you realize that it was just a building block for the universe to help you expand into the things that you already know, that you are just reawakening in yourself. And then I'm trying to think of the best way to illustrate this in words, but you can't. It's like something just opens up entirely when you open yourself up to things that you had not experienced before.
It's
I don't even
amazing.
know where to go with that. Yes.
But
I've just left everybody on the edge of their seat going, well, tell us, Lowell, what was that? Explain
but
it.
I have to say it is the norm because everybody on this planet stepped out and said, I'm going to be born and I'm not going to remember. Here I go. Everybody stepped
Yes.
out into the norm or into the unknown. So it is the norm. Everybody on this planet stepped out into the unknown. So it is the norm.
Robyn,
Everybody,
I'm sorry.
right?
Michaela made a reference to our soul a few minutes ago, and that I didn't forget that. Here is the beginning of your real comprehension, is when you can see yourself as beyond this carbon avatar that you're wandering around in. Your soul is riding here. And when you come to terms with that and you understand your purpose, then you understand what you were doing here now, and that reincarnation is the thing. And that if reincarnation's a thing, I've had past lives. And when you can come to terms with all that and begin to understand how all that plays into your life and how it affects everything else, now you're in a place to be able to kind of ride it. I say ride it like we have some control over it. All I can tell you is that we're being made aware of these things at a more rapid rate because the earth is going through that stuff at such a rapid rate. And we're scrambling to try and keep up so that the day when this transition to her new level of awareness begins, that we are already there vibrating at the same level. That's why we've taken the time and made the intent to do these kind of broadcasts to help others kind of come to terms with what it is. Because before a couple of years ago, I had no knowledge of any of this stuff, no awareness of what any of it is, but I understand it fully now, and I know what I'm doing here, and I know why I came back to help. I'm fully capable of ascending. In fact, as we have talked about for a while now, most of us that are in the tribe have already ascended, which is why we can talk about things from that perspective. We see it, been there, done that.
Yeah. Well, I think we do have a lot of control over it. I think it's the way that we shine, the way that we vibrate, the way that we share our love with each other. We have every bit of control over it. And is how we have our inner light radiate forth to everything. And I'm all for, writing it, you write it with joy, you write it with glee. I'm a country girl. I used to be a barrel racer. I'll ride it. You can't knock me off. So, there's nothing that anybody can't do. I mean, I've been knocked down. I've been bucked off. I've been kicked down. I've been stomped on. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So we are all magnificent, beautiful, radiant lights. So I just shine so much love for everybody, because I think everybody on this planet is beautiful. And I just hope they all look at themselves the way that all the light beings, all the angelics, all of everybody that I communicate with sees them and how I see them. I hope that they shine and see themselves that way someday.
It's so beautiful, Robyn. Thank you. It's so true. Yeah, people are literally heroes to be here after everything we've been through, after all the conditioning, and we still have the passion for creativity, for growth, for everything. Yes, our core is really light, nothing else.
Keep going. You're doing great.
I love being silent with you. I love to talk to you, but I also love being silent with you.
You know, there's energy that is in the air when tribe members are in the same space. So maybe this is a good time to talk about that idea that you had sent to me after you got back home. And that there was this sense, as we were going from the vehicle to McLeod Falls when we got there, and we're walking along, and I find myself every now and then when I'm with someone that I hadn't been there with before, although I recognize them as tribe, you kind of find yourself, well, how did I find myself here with this young girl? Here I am walking around out in the woods, and it was with Michaela. But even while she was hiking in front of me, it was like, that girl's my daughter. It just feels like that relationship, on that, there was a level of love that went kind of transcended physical stuff. And you knew that there was another kind of spiritual, metaphysical bond beyond that, where we both understood and what we were looking for. We were all both on the same vibration looking for it. And it felt like a father-daughter relationship. So when you got home and a couple of weeks later said, I got this thought that I was your daughter, and that's when I went, oh my God.
It was actually a dream. It was a dream that I had at night. And it was something like we were sitting by the table, we were discussing our next journey. And then you were looking at me, and I was asking you, why are you looking at me like that? And you said that I remind you of someone. And I said, whom? Someone from your previous life. And then it kind of turns out that I was your daughter or something.
Yeah.
And I feel like it might be entirely symbolic, because when I see what are you doing for me, like you are holding space in which I grow. When you remember the first time that I joined this podcast, I was incredibly nervous. I was absolutely not sure about my English, about what I'm going to say, and but the space that you create for all of us, it makes so much sense. And to me personally, it helped a lot.
I'm glad to hear that. Over the last week, when there's been a lull in the action, and I'm just waiting to return to Shasta. I had gone back and kind of looked through all of these podcasts. And I recognized that what I'd started out to do, because I wasn't interested in being a talking head ever, still not interested in being a talking head. I wanted to do that so that we could open up an exchange where people have had questions or they had comments and remarks that they could contribute to help others maybe down the road. That's when I saw, and none of those podcasts were about me. It was about other people who showed up that wanted to share their situation. And from that standpoint, call it pride, but I have a lot of pride in the fact that here were other people feeling the same things, and they finally had a platform where they could share their things safely. No ridicule here. We've all been through extraordinary things. So who am I to say that your extraordinary thing didn't happen? That's just ridiculous. Because really, in the end, the experiences that we benefit, that we tuck away in our little personal akashas, sooner or later, the collective shares all that information. So the lessons you're learning benefit all of us, and the lessons I learned benefit all of us in the long run. When I listen to, I don't listen to as much as I used to listen to before, because I see people's perspective and where they're coming from. And more often than not, their egos are the one that think that they have to be, in front of their screen 2 or 3 times a week, giving us information because they just need to be out there. I got no time for that. I got my own ego to tame. I'm looking for people who resonate in the same area and who make my vibration rise when I'm around them and not drop. There's my barometer. I suggest the rest of you use it the same way. And when you begin to feel things, here is where you've kind of separated yourself from this physicality that we find ourselves in, and the ways that we understand how to experience third dimensional things. That when you are aware of your ethereal body and feel things, that's how I connect with others. Telepathy and all that, we think of those are wonderful tools that we'll get later on. When the tribe is around, we already have that sensation. Whether you're across the globe in Slovakia or whether you're here or not, I know that Michaela and I vibrate at the same levels. And that's why it's fun for me to watch what she's learning on behalf of all of us, because it isn't the same things that I'm learning. But when our paths are going by, we all get to appreciate it, and we get to see the overlaps. That's what I'm looking for. And the reason why I wanted to do these podcasts where everybody else came in is I wanted to hear everybody else's story, not tell you mine over again, because I'm looking for the consistencies between your experiences and mine. That's what I want to find. That's when you find the tribe that's really coming together. So I'm just as content to listen to other stories, because there's information in there for me as well.
Yes, I really feel like encouraging people to join this circle, because it is really safe, lovely space where you can share what you're experiencing, and we can benefit all of us. It makes so much sense, because our personal journey is one thing, but for me, the best thing about this is to connect and to see how we match each other, and how we create the unity that works better than any one of us by himself.
Well, for anyone who's never listened to these podcasts before, I want to extend the invitation to do that again, to have them come and participate. You've got to understand that a lot of people whose awareness is waking up aren't in a place and they're not ready to talk about it at all. So it takes a lot of courage. Just like you said, the first time you came on here, there's all kinds of anxiety about opening up and talking at all. I imagine it's the same way for everybody. It wasn't much different for me either. I'm just a Capricorn. And when the time comes for me to say what's on my mind, that's pretty easy to say. Now, having said that, we've kind of launched into some new territory here that had not really been in my awareness all my life. It's been since early 2016 when all of this began to blossom. And even now, when I look back on it, I have more clarity now than when I did 4 years ago. I have more understanding of what the visit to Telos was about. I have more understanding about my connections with Kumu and what my interactions with the light beings meant. As time goes on, you understand more of what that was, and it just took time. There was no way you were going to have brand new experiences like that and boom, understand what that was. No, We have no framework for it in this particular density. And it just takes a while for things to kind of fill in so that you can step back and really, oh, those are all the things that led up to what that was. It just takes time. And when, we make references to how that is accelerating now, there's no doubt in my mind that things are all moving faster, that the divisions between higher dimensions and this isn't quite profound. And there's some clarity that's going to be brought soon to beyond Earth sentience, and where Dave's attention is going, and some truths that are going to be revealed. And then the whole idea of inner Earth, it's popular with a handful of us, but that's still going to be a revelation for a lot of people who don't understand that. And they're going to have to come to terms with it the same way that we did, based on what we thought we knew about, just the planet's makeup. We believe that there's this hot molten mass in the middle of it, and that in our minds, how could anybody or anything live there? Here is where you have to have a comprehension of dimensionality, and those factors in 3D have no effect on those higher realms. It took a while to get there. And it's still going to be foreign information to a lot of people that hear this. But if you stick with it long enough, you'll find out that it's absolutely true. And right now, all the triggers within you to kind of wake you up quickly, and all the angelic help that's around us, all the higher dimensional help that's around us, is all, tapping us on the shoulder often with synchronicities to get our attention. It's time for us to understand that it's wonderful to think that the notion of collective consciousness is rising, but I'm not waiting for that to happen. It's happening on different levels because I'm aware of it. I don't know where I was going with that thought, so I'll leave it there.
Yes, I was thinking about I always like to see things in the microcosmic and macrocosmic levels and play with the symbolics and everything about it. And I was thinking that, if we talk about solar flares and solar activity that is influencing the magnetic field of the Earth, sun as a symbol is our creative self. It's our inner light that is giving some flares that are impacting the Earth, the body, the energetics. I'm just thinking about it, on a symbolic levels, that it is happening all in the same time, in the big level and also within us.
Yeah, it's an interesting download if you want to see it that way. If you really can come to terms with the fact that we're electromagnetic beings, our chakras line up with the same chakras Earth has got, and we all play the same way, that when we get this idea that this electromagnetic plasma, this photon energy that comes from the sun, is penetrating everything in its path. Every sentient being is affected by it. The Earth is affected by it. We're affected by it. Every animal is affected by it. But we were never taught those things. We didn't understand it until later. We got this sense that we're more than just this carbon avatar body that wears out in 80 to 100 years. We were trained to think that, you're born, here's your parents, here's your ancestors, and here's when you die. Most people have no conception. We're just done. We don't do any more than that. We all had to come to terms with we're much more than that. And our soul is who we really are. We are here because Earth had always been a 3D experiment. This has been going on for eons. When you really understand the history of the planet to begin with and the civilizations that have been here, um, you can begin to see in your past lives what roles you've played there and what led up to where we are now and where we are in Earth's history. Forget human history right now. We're second to all that. The Earth is the entity that is certain in its evolution. And we're in the middle of this rise in her consciousness. It's cosmic like everything else. She wasn't going to be stuck here forever. We've been stuck here forever. And humans probably could have contributed to that had we not gone off in a different direction. Now, if you want to begin to compare our circumstances to what happened to us during those historic periods during Lemuria and Atlantis, which, we didn't learn about those things in school either. But here's where the planet went through problems created by humanity. If you really want to take a look at our current situation, we ain't that far off from where we were then. Wasn't it told that thermonuclear devices were used back then and damaged land masses, all due to our egos? And here we are again. I'm convinced that when our awareness began to trigger again was during World War II, when we dropped nuclear weapons and began to demonstrate what we could do to the earth. That is when all of this higher dimensional influence that's been around the planet forever intervened. Humanity had always been hands off. We're supposed to be learning and evolving on our own, but when we began to disturb the planet, we're only here for what, a century? It's a New York minute in terms of the universe, and it's not our planet to damage. That is why all of this other help is stepping in to, not to prevent it from happening, although you've certainly seen things where nuclear warheads have been disabled by these light things in the sky. Yes, they're going to prevent us from damaging the planet again, because again, it's not our planet. We were here to enjoy Earth and help it on its own evolution, but the threat of nuclear arms being used again, here we are once again. I don't believe that it's going to happen again. What is next is contact. We've already had it. People we know, like Dave, have had contact and have come back to talk about it. My contact has been with inner earth beings, which that's a whole nother kettle of fish for people to wrap their heads around. And, I wonder why things come to me the way that they did. When I look through the history of what's gone, even in the last year, when I started to pull up all these images of inner earth that were really memorable for me, I'm no artist. So how in the world did those things come to me? And it wasn't that it just triggered me, because you've all done the same thing. When you saw those things, they triggered you in some way that said, this is familiar to me. And all of a sudden, I've got an awareness of not just Telos, because I've been there. There were 9 other cities that had been brought my attention in a variety of ways. And the stories were just too parallel to ignore. They came from different sources from different times. I'm convinced that the reason why I'm being told those things is, look at where we are right now. The earth is not done with catastrophic things going on. It's a result of all this energy coming from the central sun that's shaping the earth in different ways right now. I had to hold on while I collect myself. we are so close to whatever is going to happen. There are more catastrophes that are lined up for us. We're not finished with earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and the tsunamis that are created. Look, for God's sake, there was a hurricane on the west side of the United States. I lived in Florida for a while and rode out more than my share of hurricanes, and I've been displaced by them. I'd never seen that phenomenon on this part of the earth. And when you look at all of the extreme weather conditions, they're just manifestations of what Earth is going through in flexing into her new place. And we're not done. So it's important for us to help people understand about these allotments, these golden tie allotments that are already preconditioned to this new higher vibration, to bring an awareness about it for that. This week I was going through, and there was a period of time when I first came across this information. It's been over a year, and I thought everybody needs to know about this. And in the first paragraph of this document that had been, set down on the paper in the early 90s, there was a window of time where this was supposed to take place between 2015 and 2025. And we understand that timelines are flexible. So it could be that it could be beyond that period of time. It could also be before that time. And in what I feel, because I feel these solar, flares and solar winds is coming. I feel that energy when it hits Earth. It won't be long before it just is what it is. And, I've stopped worrying about how I thought people were going to react when they heard this information. Is it going to flip a lot of people off? Hell yeah, because they can't see past the catastrophic part of it. They see, what's going to happen to them. They still look at, what happened in Lahaina. Poor Lahaina went through a fire. And you see all the news talking about, what happened and who's to blame and what you could have done differently. That's not how it happens. I lived here in Sonoma County, and in 2018, 5,300 homes were lost, not due to any neglect. There was a spark that started in Calistoga, and the wind was just moving in the right direction and just kept blowing it westward. And in its path, it took out everything. Now, when nature decides she's going to burn what she wants to burn, there isn't any amount of humanity and preparation that is going to get in the way of that. We are 8 billion critters crawling on her planet and insignificant in that way. So when we think that there might have been something else we could have done, all we're doing is just feeding the fear portion of all that. And I'm not interested in that. I can see that we're not done with that yet, but I have a higher awareness of what's coming, and it's coming soon. So the quicker that we can get people to a place where they're comfortable with this change and they stop seeing it as some kind of assault on their physical being, that our lives are at stake. They're at stake the whole entire time we're here. We're only meant to be here for 80 to 100 years, just based on what our experiences have been. This is not the end of humanity. We're about to finally get into a stage that we've had awarenesses of higher aspects, higher dimensional awareness. We had it in the past. It took us eons to get out of that shithole into where we're going, and here we are. Look at the number of people that are waking up along the way and just find sense in all of this, and they've still found a peace. I find great comfort and peace in the conditions that we're going through right now. Even though there's a lot of chaos and lots of crap that's going on, I know what's coming. I've seen the next civilization. And so I've dropped my concerns about it. And that's a lot to say. But like Michaela pointed out before, there's just fundamental information that you got to build up along the way. And what you do, then you have a better idea of what's coming at us. But 4 years ago, I didn't have it. And I would have reacted in most cases the way everybody else is reacting now with no awareness of any of this. So that's enough for my soapbox.
Yes, I feel like we need to be very careful about how we tell things to people. But also I feel like if I tell things to people, I shouldn't do it because I want to save them. You know, when we are sharing like this, it's very exhausting to trying to save people. And I think it's not the right approach. I feel like anyways, we are doing it for ourselves, you know? We are doing it for
That's a
our
good
exploration, for sharing with the like-minded people, for creating the new, whatever it is. Not, you know, to avoid that approach of trying to save someone, because
We
it is,
can't change others. We can only change ourselves.
We're not here to save anybody.
No,
We are here to any people. We're not here to save people. We're here to like you were said, this to raise the vibration of the planet, and who choose to raise their own personal vibrations themselves, that is their choice. That is their free will. And by the radiation and the vibrations of our own self, of our own choosing, and where we share our light and our vibrations outward, like what we do here and what we do in our own personal lives, everything that we do, every breath we take, every breath we expand out with our song, where we share our light, and what is activated by us, and people, what they choose to, where they're activated, that's what we want to do. We don't try to change anybody. We don't try to help anybody. Many of us, like myself, I have a wellness center, but I don't hardly do a lot of searching and for people. What people are guided to come to me, I'm grateful, you know. But you know, we don't like beat people over the head with our knowledge. You know, that's not for us to do. You know, we share what we can, what we have. And like what you were saying, Lowell, about your light activation. All of us have had many light activations, and we get all of these downloads, and they're just expanded, you know, into our soul and into our etherical fields, and we don't know what to do with them. But then years go by, and then we're activated by other people's stories, other people's light, and it makes sense, and then it activates that light code in us, and it just expands more. And that's why it's so important to become part of groups like we are with our tribe, getting together and sharing our light with each other. Not so much our stories, but it's our light that we're sharing. It's our vibrations of song that we're sharing with each other that expands out between our cells and our etherical vibrations between us. It's not so much the story, it's our vibration that we're sharing.
it's true. My guides continue to remind me to tend to my own flame. And that's the advice they suggest I give to others. Work on yourself and maintain your vibration. You can control that. Don't worry about someone else's narrative. But as you so wonderfully put, that ignites a light inside of you that was already there. And these downloads are enhancing our ability to hold greater light, because that's what's coming at us right now from the
Yes.
central
Yes.
sun. There are levels, full spectrums of lights that humanity had not been experiencing before. And it's part of the reason why acceleration is taking off the way that it is.
Yeah,
Um,
they call them solar flares, but
yeah.
I'm being told it's called divine light.
It
You know, they call it
is.
Schumann
It's
resonance.
enhanced photon energy. It's light. Call it anything else you want. And I go back often. After my experience with Kumu 2 years ago, the week after that, she had sent me, I think it was maybe 12 minutes long, an explanation of what it is that we're going through and all the things that I had experienced with the beings I had experiences with. Here's what it was. And she explained that there's a different spectrum of light that's coming our way, and that every sentient being is being affected by it. And with awareness of it, you could actually grasp a hold of it and help it lift you to where we're going next. That was always going to be done on an individual level. It wasn't like we were going to have a classroom and exchange our experiences when it came to this. No, every being is on their own when it comes to that.
On
But
their
the
own.
more you pay attention to it, the more people see that light inside of you without you having to utter a word. And they just have a curiosity about it, and that leads them to the next level. Tribes come together, at least for me, my interpretation is here's where we compare notes and we find synchronicities between one another. It wasn't that, all of a sudden Robyn and I found we did exactly the same thing, and that's why we got to where we were. It's never like that. Robyn's experiences, Michaela's experiences kind of fill in the gaps and the fabric of the universe. I can see where what Michaela did on that day when we went to Shasta had an impact on me, but that wasn't what it was meant to do. She went there for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to witness what had changed for her. And here is where I got something out of Michaela's involvement with me. Not that what Michaela learned, I learned too. We're not designed that way.
Well, even in the same moment, in the same space, in the same time, you will have different experiences for your being. And so we're all on a different journey because we're all meant to come back together in a different fabric, different platform of a fabric and puzzle, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's beautiful how we have all these different experiences that just come back together in this beautiful format, mosaic of mess. I think it's just beautiful. But yeah, all these different energies that they measure, and all they call it, all these energies that's going to affect you this way and affect you this way, and it's going to do this to the planet and this is the planet. And I was shown that they're measuring divine love, and they're measuring divine light, and they're measuring this, and it's just this beautiful way that they're measuring it. And some people get all excited that it's gonna hurt us, and it's like, no, that's activating you, and it's gonna make you radiate more. And I think it's beautiful. And if we do sit down and breathe it in and just let it just radiate through you, I think it's wonderful. I like seeing the little graphs and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look how much divine love we got splattered with today.
If there was anything that I could influence, I would lift people beyond their box of fear that they find themselves in. And
which is
Dave
huge.
and I had some conversations about beyond earth sentience. And trust me when I tell you that we're not that far away from having interactions and contact with them. Just in the same way that the Lemurians had promised that there's going to be greater contact with them now on the surface. People's idea of these beyond earth sentience has been what the movies have shown us. And, there's all of a sudden this idea of fear when you think of the word alien, you think of the movie. Well, that's not what I'm interested in. And what I can tell you is that the help that's around us is benevolent and has been here for a while.
Look, they're interacting with us on a regular basis.
Yeah. of course, the military is going to continue to spin the idea that we have things we need to worry about, that there's still an attack that might be imminent. And what I can tell you is that if they decided they wanted to take us out, the technology that they have is such that that's not even a second thought. That's not what they're here to do. There's no invasion that's coming, but there is contact, and mass contact isn't that far away.
Yeah.
Same thing is true when those higher dimensional beings make themselves aware because they've been staying in inner earth, removing themselves from all the negativity that was on the surface for a purpose. I began to talk about those other inner earth cities. In my mind, I'm convinced that I was shown those things to show others, because what happened the last time we had a catastrophe like this? Where'd the Lemurians go? And the Atlanteans? Let's not remove them, because, oh man, there's still, those factions are here too. They went underground in the inner earth. There are 120 inner earth cities, as far as I can understand. 9 of them I have identified, and others have come to the same conclusions. I am convinced that the reason that is Telos isn't the only inner earth city. And it's not going to be the only place that we're going to be welcome when catastrophes on the surface make parts of these areas uninhabitable for a while. Here is why these things are being presented to us.
Yeah. They're definitely, there's cities everywhere. I mean, the inner earth is very, very vast. I mean, the planet's huge. So the whole inner inside of the planet is all cities. This, like,
I'm
when I was
glad you said that. That's a good point.
Yeah, so it's like when I was camping next to Skinwalker Ranch this summer, and the beans were telling me they were like, because the people at the campground were asking me whether or not the beans at Skinwalker Ranch, because they bordered their properties bordered, and I was camping right there, and I could see I was doing some energy work. Anyways, they're asking me if they were the same beans, and the beans are the inner earth beans were laughing. They're like, well, there's not a line drawn here, so we don't just stop going. We don't like stop. There's no line down here.
They're
You may have
around us.
you may
They're
have
in
drawn a line up
dimensions
there,
we
but we
can't.
didn't draw a line down here.
Yeah. Some of us vibrate at levels where we are fully aware of not just them, but other spectrums of light and sound and stuff that's around us now. We're being prepped so that we're ready for that stuff right now. More and more of us will be, opened up in that same way. But there's a couple of us that are, way showers, pathfinders. I can tell you what it's like going there, but that's what it was like for me.
Yeah, it is fascinating that many of those cities, they are on different levels, as was described in that Romanian book by Radu Cinemar. It's really fascinating. They are in different levels of density, and when they were approaching the lower levels that were high vibrational, they had to go through portals that were changing their bodies and their energetics, so they were able to cross to other realm. Mm-hmm. And I remember that the author said that it required training to have his energetic system adjusted to be able to do something like that. Yeah, to go to the deeper, more high vibrational. Like there are cities in physical plane, like we are, in the hollows of the earth, in the big caverns, but then it transitions to the etheric plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad
that's another kind of transition.
Yeah, there's a ditch or something that they dug at Skinwalker Ranch that they've got a measuring device in, and it's all green down inside there. I don't know if it's lights or something, but I saw a picture of it, and immediately I was pulled into it from the picture. I looked at their site before I went there because I didn't know much about the Skinwalker Ranch before I went there. I was pulled into it, and I could taste and I could smell etherical, the taste of ethers. And I know this from being out into the void, out into the etherical realms. I could smell that and taste it, and I was pulled down into the inner earth there. Yeah, so that the
You know, it's
etherical realm.
interesting you mentioned that, because some of the things that early in my transition, when I was becoming, greater aware, the first thing I recognized were that my five senses were much more acute. What I heard, what I saw, what I tasted, what I smelled were just on whole different levels. And that was just in preparation for me to kind of get in touch with that sixth sense, your ethereal body, and actually feeling things there. Once you get a hold of that and a command over that experience and that sensation, now you'll find those energetic portals and vortexes. And those are the passageways between the realms. When you find those, that's how you get to the next level. And they're not meant to be secret anymore. No, they're meant so that they're going to be easier to find when people need to find them. All the more reason it's important for us to get a handle on what our vibration really is and see what we can't do to rise with it, so that when we find these things in nature, and in Shasta, they're freaking everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
That's what I found first, was energetic pods before I found anything else. I was looking for ascended masters and found these energetic things that I just didn't understand what they were, but there was something that drew me there and gave me a different sensation. Yeah.
You feel the different vibration, and then you'll taste something different. I noticed that in Peru. I would walk places and I would taste the ethers.
Yes.
You'd walk through where there would be stone pillars, and you'd walk through that, and then all of a sudden there would be a different taste in your mouth, and there'd be a different vibration, and everything would be different in front of your eyes. And it's that way in Mount Shasta where we were camping. We were laughing because we were like, I think it feels like I've taken mushrooms, but I haven't taken mushrooms, and we've been like that for 2 days.
Exactly. We just arrived in that place in the forest. It was at the border of the wilderness, and we were really like in some other kind of time space. And we just got the message: you don't have to do anything. Just be there.
Just be there.
Just be there.
We slept in the truck and we just hung out.
Yeah. That's how I feel when I go there. I don't need to do anything. I can just pull over on the side of the road, pull my chair out, and just be here. That's all that I need.
Yes, people sometimes think that we need to get messages in the form of words or some kind of guidance, but no.
We just sat there vibrating and watching everything. We'd hike up the hill a little bit and come down. Michaela made a circle.
Yes, I made a little stone circle. I meditated in it. Then I dismantled it when we were leaving,
I climbed up the mountain and sat on a rock. We laid on rocks. Did nothing special. We did nothing special.
But it was absolutely special.
Yeah.
The whole experience.
You were taking in whatever energy was there. You were absorbing it. And you knew better than to try and let my mind figure out what this is. Just kind of go with how it felt and look at what you had to report when you were done.
Yeah, we spent the night there. It was a wild night. And then we got up the next morning and just kind of floated around for a little while. And then we're like, okay, now it's time to go. All of a sudden, both of us were like, it's time to go.
And yes, we just felt it. Yeah. And we left and we went for the bears.
And it's funny when your time is done in a space, it's time to go. Yeah. You're done in that space.
Yes.
Yes, you feel it. You feel like you've absorbed everything, you gave everything you had to give, and you can move on.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that, because I want to point out again, we we go to places like Mount Shasta because we're told that there's some energy there, and we go there to get it. Nothing happens without an exchange of energy. Nothing. And so I'm happy that you added that at the end, that there was something that I gave. And in return, this is what I got from Mount Shasta in return. We're light workers. We're meant to plant light. That's what we do. And when we do, that's when we get something through the exchange. But our intention is to go there to plant light from source here on the planet. That's our job.
Yes, and it's a very natural process, you know, it's not any kind of bargaining like something for something or I don't know what. It's just you go where your heart leads you or where your body leads you or you feel like going, and things happen and then you can leave. You don't need to, you don't even have to remember the details, you know?
Yeah, then you can leave. Sure you can.
Yes, and things really happen on different levels. Sometimes you don't even can put into words what really happened, but you just know the right thing happened, and yeah.
It makes me want it for everybody else. That's what I want. That we can have these conversations with people we see on the street. We're not there yet. I have hopes that we'll get there. In the meantime, we just support each other and continue to amplify the things that we've experienced and this greater light that we're taking in. Everybody is getting downloads, whether they're recognizing it or not. And I'm still amazed by the number of people that I didn't know before that found, something on my Instagram feed, and all of a sudden now they're following me and now they're starting to ask questions. It's the same. I don't know if we talked about this before. It just came to mind that, we all know where Dave's Pie Shop is down at Hermosa Beach. And it was the week before last, I think. There were two visits he had. One, on a Friday, there was a young lady and her partner, I think, were there, and they began to talk about just things that felt comfortable for them to ask Dave about. Strange phenomenon that they had seen, along the beach, and Dave was there to kind of confirm it. It turned out that she was a writer in Hollywood, and all the meltdown that's going on with that. So that was one discussion that happened. Well, that was on Friday. Then on Monday, there was another guy who came in and had these questions about some phenomenon he thought he saw off the beach, and just felt like Dave, to him, was a guy he could ask about this kind of thing. Well, how does that happen? So for the next couple hours, they had an exchange where Dave would answer the questions this guy about what he thought he saw and experienced. And then on Wednesday, he came back and spent the afternoon with Dave and found out that he is a producer, also going through the same Hollywood meltdown crap that's going on. And when he had heard more about Dave, he turned to Dave and goes, "Man, there's a movie. There's a story here." Dave goes, yeah, you have no idea. We'll see what's all going to become of that. But it's just amusing on one hand, interesting at the same point, that more and more people that had no awareness of something beyond themselves are showing up and having these dialogues. And, they've somehow found you, they found me, they found Dave, they found people that are really having experiences, and not talking heads talking about other people having experiences. Here's where we are.
See, all things come to you that are supposed to flow to you.
Yeah.
When you're shining your light flows back into you.
Yeah. That's a good way to kind of explain the phenomenon around Dave, because you wonder why people would begin to just have these conversations about not sensitive conversations so much, but things that aren't really mainstream. How do you just open up and begin to have these conversations? Well, you got to have a level of comfort to do that in the first place. So it's amusing for me to hear when it happens with Dave, and it's in his pie shop of all places. How
Yeah.
does that happen?
It just, when you're shining light, it just happens, and when you don't get upset about things that happen, when they're unfavorable, beautiful things happen. Like when I left Dave's house this summer, when I had to be down in LA for I was down doing a Kyle Gray event. And then I was headed to meet up with you and Michaela up in Mount Shasta. And I broke down right after I left Dave's house. I had trouble with my radiator, my alternator, because going down through all the back roads that I had gone through Rice Canyon, my nut had come loose and it was frying out my wire, and it had grounded out my alternator. Well, the mechanic that I got to help me out was next to a prison, and he's like, "You can't sleep here. He's got to drive me half hour away because he didn't want me next to the prison. He just didn't want me to sleep that close to a prison. So he drove me a half hour away to be away from this prison while he fixed my truck for the night.
Wow.
On this drive where he wants to know what I'm doing, why I'm driving through town, and why I'm out traveling so far away from home. And I'm telling him what I'm doing, and I've got my sound machine, and I'm just had this angel event, and I'm on my way to Mount Shasta, and what I do, and I do divine healing and all this different stuff. And all this conversation about angels, he says, I have always wanted to know how to connect with angels more. I knew they were real. I knew angels were real. And so we have all this connection about angels with this guy. And he had been shot in the hand when he was younger by his cousin. And he just knew that an angel protected him and wanted to know how to get connected with angels. So in me getting my truck fixed, I helped this guy connect with angels and how to move forward with forgiveness. And I was so grateful to be broken down by the time I left. And it was just a beautiful experience.
It's lovely that you see that from that perspective, because lots of other people just got bogged down into the inconvenience of having your car broke down. They never would have seen the bright side of any of that.
Oh, I met a beautiful person, and then I was on the road the next day. It was no big deal. So when we see the
Well,
love in things,
kids,
there's love.
we're 90 minutes into this. Anybody have
Okay.
anything else they want to add? Well, thank you for both for being here. This was fun.
This was fun. It was lovely
Yeah.
to be with you guys again.
You too.
It
It's
always
good to
is.
see you both.
Delightful.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, I'll have this up in a few hours, and we'll see where it goes after that. But thanks again. See you soon.
Thank you.
Uh,
Bye.
ciao.